Hey guys, I'm Jax, and this is my spoiler review for Better Call Saul Season 6, Episode 7, the mid-season finale of the final season. So after weeks of build-up and setup and table setting, we finally have the big explosive finale, or mid-season finale, to the final season of Better Call Saul. And this episode was spectacular. It was so tense. It was just so my goosebumps had goosebumps the whole time. I was just sitting there with anticipation of what's gonna happen? Something's got to happen. And the whole time I'm mostly thinking about Howard, because the whole season they're like, slippin' Jimmy, slippin' Kimmy, we're gonna bring down Howard. And the whole episode, without having all the pieces of the puzzle, but they're all there, they just haven't been brought together yet. And I've tried not to kind of piece them all together with my, by myself before this, because I kind of wanted to have it play out and have the reveals and revelations of their master plan all kind of come together as it did in this episode. And it was spectacular. So many sequences in this episode were brilliant, particularly seeing the young filmmakers back and just the crazy, quick film scene. That was just so much fun. Such a delight to see them back after last week kind of felt like a little cameo appearance. And I'm like, oh, we only really get one appearance from them a season. I want to see more. And this episode had that. But enough about talking about everything that happened in this episode. I'll get to that. Let's talk about that cliffhanger. So after weeks of theorizing and speculating, what's the plan? How is Howard going to react to the plan? Will the plan work? Will Howard kind of get will he turn the tables on them? And if he reacts, will he react poorly? Will he kill himself? Will one of them kill him? And of all the crazy things that could have happened, we ended up getting something that I am completely split on. On one side, it's shocking and horrifying, and I really like the kind of bizarre symbolism that I never really saw would happen and how that is for the show and where it's going to go from here. And on the other hand, it's almost too random. It's almost too no one thought of this. No one speculated this would happen, because it just comes out of absolutely nowhere. So, spoilers. You're not watching it if you haven't seen it, but Lalo kills Howard. He just shoots him in the head out of nowhere for essentially no reason, completely out of the blue at the end of the episode. And it's shocking, it's horrifying, it's terrifying. There's such an incredible use of seeing the candle and it shimmers and almost goes out with the cold wind that comes in when the door opens. First with Howard, and then the tension builds up. Is Howard gonna do something? Is Howard gonna fall off the balcony? Is Howard gonna try and attack one of them? What's gonna happen? And then the second time when Lalo enters, and it's so tense. It's nothing about this scene isn't perfectly well executed and well made on a filming standard, on an acting standard. Everything is perfection. But yeah, so I'm of two minds, and let me go mind one where it works and then mind two where it doesn't work. So part of my brain loves this. It is so completely insane and horrible. Slippin' Jimmy and Slippin' Kimmy have been falling more into the crime side of things, and Howard has been completely separate of that for the entire series. The actors even said in interviews, I love doing my scenes because we're just doing a lawyer show, and then I watch the show and there's this whole crime angle that he's just not a part of whatsoever, and he's never been a part of it, not for a single second. And this season, while bringing down Howard and destroying his career through this elaborate scheme that's taken the whole season, they are slowly kind of drawing him into their kind of crime part of their lawyer show that they're both a part of. Jimmy's on one side and the other, and he's slowly kind of drawing Howard into that crime world. And at the end, when Howard comes drunk and he's still in his lawyer show, he's like, how dare you do this to me, Jimmy? How dare you ruin it? What did I do? What did I do to deserve this? And then the crime aspect of Jimmy's life walks in the door, looks at him and goes, who's this random? Bang! You don't fit into this world, Howard. And Jimmy is going to turn into Saul Goodman, and he'll never be part of that just a lawyer world anymore. So how does Howard deal with coming to this world? He gets shot immediately. Cold blood, brutal, for no reason, because sometimes the crime world is horrific and brutal like that. And so this side of it, I love it. It's not what I expected at all, but it totally fits the theme of the show. Crime show, lawyer show. And it's going to end up being a crime lawyer show. It's a lawyer in a crime show. That's what he is in Breaking Bad. And so Howard doesn't fit. Howard's never fit. When I watched the first season when it first aired, I was like, this is almost too different. And for so long, the show has essentially been Mike and Gus and, Nacho and all that doing their story and Saul doing his story. And season 5 started bringing them together with Lalo as Saul's lawyer. And now to have this kind of happen, it's not in a big elaborate scheme. Howard didn't try and ruin Kim's life, then Kim has to go to prison, then Saul kills Howard, or something brutal like that, something meticulously schemed. Howard doesn't kill himself to kind of horribly mirror Chuck killing himself. All these things that I felt fit thematically into the show, and with all these kind of characters and where that all kind of end up. But to have Howard die like this is so kind of like tragic in a way where like, yeah, even the part of me that's like, oh, it feels like unearned and just random and cruel. That's almost another side of why it does kind of work, because it's so horribly cruel and just random and just like Lalo doesn't even know who Howard is. Howard has no idea who that is. He just suddenly, even in his drunken state, goes like, oh boy, I'm in the middle of something. And yeah, you're in the middle of something. And you wouldn't have been if they hadn't tried to screw your life over. So it is like Saul and Kim's fault for trying to ruin your life and dragging you into it. But then there's this just bizarre sense of like, you know, it isn't building and building and building. He's just there drunkenly yelling and being like, why'd you do this to me? Which totally they shouldn't have done. So I felt so bad for Howard this episode. And then he just is in the wrong place at the wrong time. And it's just, okay, I don't know. The more I'm talking about it, maybe it does work. I just found it so shockingly random and horribly brutal after so many theories and speculation getting kind of caught up in it all. No one suggested this, at least no one that I read. Or if I did, I didn't even kind of take it seriously. Like, oh, how would that even happen? Yeah, it's a big cliffhanger. Oh boy, poor Howard. But from Lalo's perspective, it's great to see him just kind of come back into Jimmy's life in that same house, in the same kind of creepy walking through the doorway. And he's just like, I need to speak with my lawyers. Oh, who's this? Howard? I don't know what's been going on with him. I don't know how important he is to their lives. Bang! I need to talk to my lawyers. So guys, let's talk. From his perspective, he hasn't done the thing that we've all seen him do, which is kind of crazy to think. Like, he isn't aware that Howard has all this relationship with Jimmy's brother, Kim, all these, like 6 seasons of story arc he has no idea about. He essentially doesn't know that Jimmy's got this whole lawyer TV show. He hasn't seen those 6 seasons. And he just walks in and sees another man who he doesn't want to, that man can't know that he's there. So he has to die. Like, it just doesn't matter who it was. It was the pizza guy dies. If it's Howard, the main character of the show that's like part of the lawyer side of it, like, he's gonna die. And yeah, I don't know. I guess the more I'm talking about it, the more horrifically tragic and brutal and just wrong place, wrong time. He took one step into the crime TV show and he got punished by death for it, because that show is so much more brutal than the show he's been living in. It's just, oh boy, it's crazy stuff, man. Part 2 can't come soon enough. But having said all of that, part of me does feel a bit kind of like, not disappointed, but just kind of like, maybe it's just the shock of it happening and I'm coming off this so quickly. Part of me is like, is it maybe just like a little bit too random? Even though the more I'm talking about it, the more I'm like, oh no, it kind of makes sense. It's that kind of converging of worlds, the colliding of the two worlds that this show has been about for the whole series. But I'm also just like, Howard has nothing to do with this. Like, I don't know. I really just saw him either killing himself or Saul having to do with his demise, because Saul really doesn't feel like he's the Saul Goodman that we know that's always like, Belize. Let's send someone to Belize. So I always imagine the idea of him assassinating Howard, Howard turning on them and doing something horrible in the next few episodes. That would be his first, let's send someone to Belize. And that all kind of fit and made sense. But now the idea that Howard's been tragically murdered by the cartel, by Lalo, it's just crazy to think that in a couple of years, Saul's going to be like, Belize, let's just send everyone to Belize. Maybe this moment doesn't kind of shock him in the way of making him go like less corrupt and less criminal. Maybe he just doubles down and he realizes, I'm in a brutal world, everything's destroyed and dead and horrible. I've just got to accept this is who I am now. So I guess there's that kind of angle he's going to take from this death. But yeah, it's a big moment. I'd love to know what people think. Just big yays for shock and horror. Are you kind of disappointed it didn't play out a different way? Did you think it would play out this way? I'd be super curious how everyone's reacting to this incredibly huge moment. Okay, so other aspects of this episode that I absolutely loved was mainly the big boardroom scene where it all played out and all the trickery and switcheroos and everything came to fruition. The reveal that the guy with the cast was the judge, the mediator, the referee in this thing, and Howard accusing him. The fact he's got all the drug, whatever it was that made his eyes go, he's getting temperature. All that stuff was super exciting. As soon as he got that stuff on his hands, I felt so nervous. I was like, oh my God, he's going to freak out. He's going to think he's on drugs. He's going to lose his mind a little bit. And then I just thought, oh, there's like a side effect that maybe they haven't thought of. And his hands are so slippery and moist and stuff. And he's getting all sweaty. And he's like, oh, let's take the wheelchair out. And I'm like, no. he's going to accidentally let go of the wheelchair and this woman's going to die, and it's going to be this tragic, horrible circumstance that they never foresaw. Like, everything was going through my head. And as he gets the wheelchair, she's like, I don't need the wheelchair. And I'm like, don't give her the wheelchair. He's like, I insist, get in the wheelchair. I'm like, oh my God, something horrible is going to happen with his hands, the wheelchair. Is he going to give the drugs? Are they going to like pass over to the old woman? Is she going to die of a heart attack? Like, so many things were racing through my mind. And then we saw the stairs and I'm like, oh my God, how is going to slip her down the stairs? What? Just so many things. When they walked into that room, I had such a sense of relief. And they just kept building and building, like, what is going to happen? What is going to happen? And then it all just kind of explodes. The switcheroo of the photos, seeing that film guy, like the boom mic guy with the frisbee, hilarious stuff. Just some really intense, brutal takedown of Howard. Howard's acting in that scene was spectacular. Seeing all these characters that we've seen for so long, just kind of watch the fall of Howard was just... It was honestly very heartbreaking. And I love Slip and Jimmy, Slip and Kimmy. I've loved them as characters. They're spectacular. But in this moment, when they're sitting there on the phone, just listening and laughing and being like, we did it. We've screwed over Howard. And Howard's sitting there being like, it's a setup. It's a setup, I say. Just, I don't know. I was like, I'm on Howard's side, man. And then at the end, when he goes to their house drunk, and you just see, like, oh, I don't know, Kim's face in that, where she's just like, oh, Howard. I'm so much better than you. I totally played you. I'm so much better than you. And Jimmy's just like, oh, Howard, just you've had too much drink. I'm like, this is so horrible. These characters. And he's like, you're soulless. You're both soulless. They are soulless. I agree, Howard. And you do not deserve the fate you got. And you did not deserve to be destroyed in that way. That's the last thing anyone's ever going to remember. That you had this big, drug addict kind of meltdown, and then no one's ever going to see you ever again. They're going to have to hide that body. They can't have it that he died in their apartment. He's going to be just disappeared forever. So people are going to think he did a runner and that he was totally guilty of being like a drug addict and all these things and the meltdown. It's just horribly heartbreaking. I feel so much pity towards Howard and just it's heartbreaking, devastating stuff. It's a really powerful episode to kind of shape our protagonist heroes and truly be like, no, they're villains. Remember that Saul from Breaking Bad, he sucks. Like, he's funny, but he sucks. Everyone sucks in Breaking Bad. Everyone sucks. They're villains. And this, I don't know, for so long in Better Call Saul, I've not really seen him as a villain because he's so much nicer. He's such a better character than Walter White as our main protagonist. And this, he's kind of he's not as, letting people OD because it'll help his situation, kind of evil Walter White. But this is so much more kind of cruel in a planned, meticulous way that just, really led like a bitter taste in my mouth. Having said all of that, one scene that I absolutely loved that made me just go, I love Slip and Kimmy, Slip and Jimmy, I love them, was the film crew scene. Those film student kids have been one of the highlights of the series throughout. Every time they're in an episode, they get like one a season, I'm pretty sure. Every single scene with them, it's a delight. It's just a glorious delight. And last week we had like a little cameo appearance. They were just in it for like 5 seconds. It was kind of like, oh, is that it? But no, we only did that because we're going to do the big show this time. And that kind of rush of we need to get it done reminded me so much of film school, of people running about. Everyone's kind of a bit unsure. Someone's got a branch in front and like everyone's running around with the cameras. Someone's left some shoes in the shot and they're like, get the shoes out of the shot. And they're filming and doing all these things in this just manic kind of panicked way where they think they've got it all together, but there's such a kind of a slapstick kind of, shoestring budget kind of feeling to it all. And I just love it. The characters they've got for those film students are brilliant. I love that she's in an elf costume. They're doing a Dark Crystal kind of play or something. I love that we see the Mr. Director guy, no one touched my cameraman, and he's all like pretentious filmmaker guy, and he's like teaching a class. He's like, this is the best camera ever, but you can't touch it because you're not an auteur. I've met guys like that. It's just, it felt like this big kind of celebration of those characters in a glorious way, and I just had so much fun with that sequence. I've loved those characters. I wouldn't be disappointed if we don't get them again, because this is, one big season, so I wouldn't be surprised if we never see them again. So it was a big, great, hoorah kind of celebration of those characters, and a final big celebration. I've said celebration too much. They were great! So Lalo is finally done with his big German adventure. He's done traversing the German Alps, or wherever the hell he was, and he's back in Albuquerque, and it was such an amazing episode of just kind of like, I don't know, this show can do a thing where I feel like another show presenting this scene would just start the episode, we'd, slowly pan in, see some goggles, it would pan over, and it would be like, bam! He's spying on the laundromat. or see the laundromat and we'd pan over and he's watching and it would just be that kind of scene. Instead, this episode spends like 5 minutes just building up the tension and the dread of like, what is he doing underground in the sewers? Like, what is Lalo doing? Like, at first we kept seeing him just go under and back out, washing, and I'm like, is he waiting for a car to come past? Is there a bomb under there? What is going on? And then it slowly shows that he's spying on the laundromat. And that suspense, the dread, the music. Oh, the soundtrack for that scene was spectacular. All of it was just so good. And it was so nice to see Lalo finally back in Albuquerque. German adventure's done. He's back to interact with all the main characters, which I just love. And yeah, I don't know, just an amazing kind of presentation of what could just be a very boring, like, oh, this is just what's happening now. Sure. I love that moment where he's on the phone as well, and he can hear the crackling of presumably, like, it's tapped, it's wiretapped or whatever, someone's listening, and he realizes the clever chicken man's being all clever, and he knows he's alive, and his frustration and anger at that, doing a little trickery to see who's what, getting everyone out, but then I love the idea that he's got a whole plan, he's gonna do this whole thing, and then he sees a cockroach, like, crawling along, and I'm like, who's that? What's he thinking with that cockroach? Goes straight to Jimmy. Jimmy's his cockroach. And I love that. Because Jimmy is a little cockroach man. Just a disgusting little slimy lawyer boy. And yeah, just an amazing little kind of visual representation or something or whatever. Symbolism. So season 6, part 1 comes to the end. Howard versus Slippin' Jimmy and Slippin' Kimmy comes to the horrible conclusion of Lalo kills him. It all gets unwound and destroyed and burnt to a crisp, and now we are setting up for part 2, which will presumably be Lalo vs. Gus, and where will Jimmy and Saul and Kimmy fit into all of this? My theories for what was going to happen to Kim completely destroyed. The show has filmed her and framed her with bars, symbolic bars, all over the place. Like, I did a video on it, big theory of why Kim will be behind bars, like, at the end of the show, but I thought it had to do with Howard kind of switching the table and, having her arrested for all the things he was going to do. That appears to not be the case at all. So I'm super curious. Are they going to be part of the Breaking Bad timeline? Are we going to get much of Breaking Bad in this? Or is it just going to be like a montage scene? Is Kim going to die? I think that Kim and Gene need to kind of meet up in the Gene timeline. I think that would be super satisfying. But essentially, all my theories and speculation and everything completely undone by this crazy, shocking ending. So I'd love to know everyone's thoughts, feelings, speculation, ideas. What do you all think is going to happen in part 2? How much of the Gene timeline do you think we're going to get? How much of Breaking Bad do you think we're going to get? Is it just going to be a montage? Is it going to be a couple of episodes? I'd love to know what everyone thinks. I think with the 6 episodes left, we're most likely to get 1 or 2 with the main Better Call Saul storyline. I think it would kind of fit to have 10 episodes. So 3 finishing off the Better Call storyline timeline, and you end with the 10, because each episode has its own opening credits. And then the last 3, 1 in Breaking Bad, a full episode of throughout the Breaking Bad timeline, then 2 with the Gene timeline. Or maybe 2 with Breaking Bad, and then 1 with the Gene timeline. I would love to see 2 episodes with opening titles that are like a combination of the Better Call Saul, but with the Breaking Bad, boom, boom, brown, the combination of the 2 timeline opening credits kind of things would be really exciting. Then a final one with maybe no opening credits, or just, I don't know, a new final one, Better Call Saul, all in black and white, Gene timeline. I don't know, I'm super excited. I can't believe what happened. It was so shocking, absolutely not what I expected. But, I just cannot wait for more. Thanks for watching, guys. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and comment below. I would love to know what everyone thought of the mid-season finale of the final season of Better Call Saul.